Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. And in this video, I want to continue our discussion on overlays by talking about identity. So identity is kind of the weird one because up to this point, we haven't really made too much of a fuss about the A versus B data sets, where with identity, we actually kind of really do care about order. So I want to make a really big note here in red. Right, order matters. Because what identity does, right, is identity keeps all of the overlap plus any geometry from A only. Plus any geometry from A only. So you can think of it kind of like union, but we're getting rid of anything that would have come from B. So what does that look like? And if we kind of draw our little chintzy example here, right? So we, in the past, right, we've had A, right? We've had B, and then their overlap creates a feature C, right? If we were to run over identity on this, right, what we would get back is A and C, and we would get rid of the B. So hopefully that makes sense. In this case, order does matter, right? If we were to flip it around and have this be A and this be B, right, then we would have gotten rid of that and kept this part. So keep in mind, again, with identity, order matters. So let's go ahead and look at our awesome example here, right? So just like before, with every time we look at this, right, there are 8 features that come out of this, right? There's this one, the overlap, this one, the overlap, this one, the overlap, this one, and the overlap, right? But if we think about in identity, right, it's going to keep all of the overlap. So we're going to keep this one, this one, this one, and this one, right? Plus anything from A. So we're going to keep this, and we're going to keep this, right? Which means that we're going to get rid of the 2 portions of B that don't have any overlap. Okay? And if we look at that, that's exactly what we get, right? Instead of having the previous 8 geometry features, now we only have 6 because we got rid of the B's that didn't have any overlap. And in terms of the attribute table, right, what you'll notice is that we have every single row, right, every feature has data from the A attribute, right? There's no NAs in any of the A attributes. And that's because by design, right, we got rid of any of them that were just B. But you'll see there are a couple, right, that don't have data in B. And that's because of identity, we kept the features from A that didn't have overlap. So that's one of the big differences between union and identity, is that we keep, right, in this case, 1C and 4C here represent the 2A and 1A that didn't have any overlap. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's go ahead and look at an example here. And in this example, right, we have 2 things, right? We have roadways, so that's these big green lines here. And we have townships. and we have whether or not the townships have a Department of Transportation. And what we want to know for each road is what segments of the road are in a township, and do the townships have a Department of Transportation or not. But because we were working for the New York Department of Transportation, we want to keep all the parts of the road. We don't care so much about the township. We want all the parts of the road to be maintained. So in this case, right, we're going to use identity because we want to keep the roads in their entirety and simply update where appropriate if they're owned by a town and if that town has a DOT or not. So hopefully that makes sense. And hopefully the diagram makes sense, right? And so what we get out of this when we run intersect, right, is at the boundary where each road, right, intersects, we break it, right? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You'll see that 6 doesn't actually intersect at all, right? So 6 was not broken at all. 7, 8, 9, and 10, right? So that's how the road got broken when we ran identity. And again, as always, because we're doing overlay analysis, we can't look at just the geometry. We have to look at the attributes as well. And so again, the thing to pay attention to here, right, is the fact that we have, right, for each piece now, there is no NAs in the A column because we work for the Department of Transportation and we wanted to keep all of the road segments. So there's no road segments missing. But we also wanted to make sure that we didn't keep any B. So all of these data, all of these are road segments. And there's no empty rows in the data frame here in terms of A, right? But what we do have, again, just to stress this point, there are going to be sections of the road, for example, for C, which is this piece right here, which corresponds to this piece right here, right, that aren't inside of a town. So they don't have a town, and we don't know if they have a DOT or not, right? NA is different from no in this case, right? But for the ones that did overlap, right, like 1C, for example, which is this piece right here, right, it overlapped Islip Township, and Islip Township doesn't have a DOT, right? So 1B, Islip, no DOT. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, at this point, this should all kind of seem like we're doing a lot of the same thing, right? Because again, all these overlay analyses are all doing the same thing. They're chopping the geometry up anywhere there's overlaps, making all the pieces, combining all the attribute tables, and then using which one of the different types of overlay to figure out which features to remove. And again, to reiterate, identity, right, keeps all of the overlaps and anything from the original A data set. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at another review question. So just like before, in this question, right, we have two data sets. We have a set of properties, that's the B data set in purple, and we have a floodplain in A here. And the idea here is that we want to know what parts of their property are inside of the floodplain and also keep the rest of the floodplain. So like always, go ahead and let's try to fill in the attribute table. So pause the video, take a second, think through the answers. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill in the table. So this is going to be a little bit easier because there's only really one A data set. So we can fill in the A's pretty easily, right? Because there's only one of them. This was a pretty easy example. But B is a little more complicated, right? Because with B, there are three options. So the first one here, 1C, this represents the overlap with 1B. So again, we're going to go to 1B and we're going to grab 5029 and Nick. I'm going to skip 2C. I'm going to go to 3C. Right, 3C here represents the overlap with 2B. So it's 2B. 5029 is already there, which actually that's a typo. That should not be that. That should be 4885 and Justin. And then 4C represents 3B. Okay, so I skipped the second column or second row, right? Feature 2C, because I want to just reiterate the idea here that because it's identity, right, 2C represents that area of 1A that did not have any overlap. And when you don't have any overlap, right, whichever data was not overlapped, those attributes become NA. Right, and so this case, right, this represents the Carmen's River floodplain that did not overlap any property, and so it has no property ID, it has no owner, and there is no feature ID. Okay, hopefully that all made sense. And as always, if you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you.